We begin our time of worship acknowledging the land we're on. We gather today on the homelands of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribal nations. We gather at the base of an ancient and holy mountain. Majesty is visible throughout the people. Sacred stories tell them they have named it Hiva or Sun Mountain. Land that surrounds us is part. It reflects our history. We are grateful for all it gives us. It to resist indigenous people, stories following native leadership.
It may not be. Glad you're here with us. Here at Pikes Peak MCC, we welcome people of any, all, or no gender identities. Everyone. We have a quiet area, quiet children's area in the back that can be for our children. Those among us who listen best when doing something with their body, we have a table in the back with coloring things and kind of meditate and doodle. If you've joined us online, you might want to gather a few items now: a candle, a Bible, something to eat. In a few minutes, Leonard will be reading from the book of Micah, chapter 6. I'd like to follow along. I now invite you to share the peace of Christ with your neighbor. Ask consent before hugging each other. Those of you that are worshiping online, introduce yourselves in the chat if you would like. Remember, we are a community, and each time we do this, we connect and build community.
And we have that. Good morning. I'm going to need a lot of vocal support today. This is it. This is all we got. Hope you had a good week. Sometimes the short weeks are the long weeks. What we say anyway. Oh, breathe in and exhale. Here we go. It's okay to not be okay. This is a safe place. This is a safe place. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. There's still hope here. There's still hope here. No matter what you've done or who you are, everyone is welcome in God's arms. Just let go. Let love wrap around you and hold you close. Get lost in the surrender. Breathe it in until your heart breaks. Then exhale. Spirit, come, tear down the walls that only you can have, that only you can reconcile this heart to yours right now, God. Right now, just let go. Let love wrap around you and hold you close. Get lost in the surrender. Breathe it in until your heart breaks. Then exhale. Oh God, we breathe in your grace. We breathe in your grace and exhale. Oh God, let us exist for you and share your grace and love and exhale. One more time. Oh God, we breathe in your grace. We breathe in your grace and exhale. Oh God, let us exist for you and share your grace and love and exhale. Just let go. Let love
Good morning. My name is Richard. My pronouns are he, him, his. We continue our time of worship with our community prayers and praises. I want to remind you that there's a notebook on the counter by the welcome window where you can write down your prayers and praises. We will then read them during worship. Anytime you wish to submit a prayer request or a praise for our prayer team, you may email it to prayer@ppmcc.org. You may also submit a prayer request through the request button at the top of each page on our website. Select support and then request for a page that will have both congregational care and prayer requests. You can specify whether you want your prayers and praises to remain private, just for the prayer team, or if they can be read during worship. Spirit of God, we invite you into our sanctuary this morning. We know you're already here, and we thank you for hearing our prayers and praises. I invite everyone to relax and to close your eyes if you would like. Breathe in positive energy. Breathe out negative energy. Breathe in faith. Breathe out doubt. God, we ask that you continue to be with the parents, family, and friends grieving the 2 children shot to death at Annunciation Catholic Church School. Help all those injured and traumatized to get the physical, emotional, and mental health care they need to get through this devastating tragedy. God, especially be with Sophia Forchas, a 12-year-old girl who was one of the kids shot. She is in critical condition after one side of her skull had to be removed. God, you know that she must be in pain and scared right now. Let her know that you're there comforting her, God. Help Sophia's parents and family have hope that she will recover. We ask that you be with the doctors and medical staff treating her. God, be with the people of Afghanistan in the aftermath of 3 powerful earthquakes. Be with the families of the 2,200 people who have died, and be with the 3,600 plus who are injured. It's hard for us to imagine such devastation. God, please help the thousands of people that were displaced due to the earthquakes. Bring them the food, medical, and mental health care and shelter that they need. God, be with all those affected by the U.S. Space Command leaving Colorado Springs and moving to Alabama. You know the negative effect it will have on people who will lose their jobs and the effect on the Colorado Springs economy. God, be with the Colorado Attorney General, Phil Weiser, who is trying to keep Space Command here with a challenge in court. Many of us are disturbed that part of the president's decision was based on Colorado's mail-in voting. God, we ask that somehow Space Command would remain here in Colorado Springs. God, be with the firefighters trying to contain 24 fires burning across Northern California. Let there be no injuries or loss of life. Be with those who have lost their homes. God, be with the families of the 8 people shot to death in Chicago last weekend when President Trump threatened to deploy the National Guard. We ask that the 54 people injured would make a full recovery. God, help all these conflicts over the National Guard deployment be resolved in a way that does not cause further bloodshed. God, you know many people in our world, our country, our state, and city are suffering physically, mentally, and spiritually. The world is such a wounded place, but God, we thank you that we have PPMCC, our family, to help us work through all that's going on. You love us unconditionally, and you have always been with us, are with us now, and will always be with us in all that we face. John 16:33 says, I've told you these things so that in me that you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. We praise you, God, also that our LGBTQ Catholics held a pilgrimage in Rome, marking a significant movement despite no official Vatican endorsement. Pope Leo IV met with an advocate, signaling a continuation of Pope Francis's welcoming stance. We have some prayers and praises from our community. Prayers for Pastor Diane as she continues to recover from her back surgery a few days ago. She really needs a breakthrough. Praises that Trudy's brother, second back surgery, is going well. Pat's wife said the current medical team performed miracles with your guidance, God. We lift up all these prayers and those unspoken to you, God. I would like to conclude with a quote from a book I just received. Not being much of a book reader, I'm lucky that it's a short read. I can handle short. Anyway, this quote is from the book A Walk with Jesus Down Hope Road by Michael Murray. In his introduction, he says, God calls all of us into seasons of rest. We may resist it because so much of our self-worth comes from being productive. I often feel a sense of guilt when I'm not getting enough done. How much is enough? I don't know, but it's always a little more than what I have already done. These times of rest are a reminder that our value comes from who we are and not what we do. We are fully loved by God because we're created by Him. Amen.
It is I again. I should have said me, huh? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Today, our contemporary reading will be the MCC Vision Statement. Metropolitan Community Church is compelled by an unfinished calling and prophetic destiny. We are a global movement of spirituality and sexuality diverse people who are fully awake to God's enduring love. Following the example of Jesus and empowered by the Spirit, we seek to build leading edge church communities that demand, proclaim, and do justice in the world. Our scripture reading today will be from the 6th chapter of the book of Micah, starting with verse 6. With what shall I bring when I come before Yahweh and bow down before God on high? You ask, am I to come before God with burnt offerings, with year-old calves? Will Yahweh be placated with thousands of rams or 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my wrongdoings, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Listen here, mortal. God has already made it abundantly clear what good is and what Yahweh needs from you. Simply do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. Please join me in the scripture response. Hear what the Spirit is saying today.
Okay, one thing working. Let's get this other thing working. There. This sounds really loud to me. It's weird to hear my voice so loud. Okay. Good morning. My name is Alicia Hayes, and my My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Oh, I hear me. I hear me now. Okay. All right, that's still green. I'm not tangled in any cords. Okay. Now that all that's out of the way, hopefully, my name is Alicia Hayes, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. My official title here is Director of Administration. My unofficial title, who Kelly dubbed me with a couple years ago, is Keeper of All Knowledge. And that's the title I'm going to operate under today. If you read the newsletter this week, you'll also know that I'm in the LEAD program, as is Ray. And Ray talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago, and the newsletter talked a little bit about it. But in case you missed it, LEAD stands for Laity Empowered for Active Discipleship, and it's a leadership program for lay people, non-clergy people like me in MCC. So before Pastor Alicia left, she asked if I would come up here and share some of the things that I learned about MCC history during a polity class that I had taken for part of that coursework. I said yes, obviously, I'm standing here, but public speaking is not my favorite thing. In fact, I'm usually back there, and if you're online, you may have never seen me because I'm usually running Sounder Tech, not standing up here. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I didn't want to just come up here and show you a timeline and be like, look at all the things that happened in MCC history. And so I asked myself, why? What is the message that I want you guys to get from this history? And I was talking to my friend Bethany, who is also in Leeds. She's at MCC Omaha. And I told her about this conversation I was having, and she said, hey, I did that already. I already wrote a sermon about this. She was in the polity class with me as well. And so she sent me her notes, and she gave me this title. That's her title. I give her full credit. I could not improve on it, and I said, can I just take that? And she said, run with it. So today, instead of a timeline, I'm going to go through a few stories from key moments in MCC history and our Pikes Peak MCC history that just resonated with me and demonstrate this thought that I had about how MCC history is a story. It's a story of people full of courage and resilience and vision. And why? Start with why. Why should I share this history? Because this is our inheritance. MCC history is a story of a community that's our community that refused to be silenced and advocated for justice and equality in a world that too often denied their basic human dignity. These are our roots, and just like plants, we can draw nourishment from our roots. We're part of this deep root system that can nourish us now and empower us in the future. So our first story is about the beginning of Metropolitan Community Church. And many of you, I'm sure, have heard at least part of this story before. This is Troy Perry there on the screen. He is the founder of our denomination, and he was kicked out of his previous denomination and stripped of his ordination because he was gay. And yet he felt totally certain that God was calling him to be a preacher. But at the time in the 60s, he was not allowed in any church as a practicing homosexual. which is language Alicia has referenced in her podcast before that's still used to keep people out of churches and off the pulpit today. So in 1968, Troy Perry was in a relationship, and that relationship ended, and he actually attempted to take his own life. That's a detail I didn't know about this story. Luckily, his friends found him in time, and they got him to the hospital and saved his life, and he was praying during his recovery, and he heard God's voice telling him, Troy, I know exactly who you are. You are my son, and I love you. And he continued to pray, and later he said, God, I know you want a special church, a church that exists to reach out to gay and lesbian people. So tell me, if you want this church to happen, who should start it? And he heard the answer, you. And he said, okay, I'll do it. When should I do this, God? And he heard, now. And he listened. And the first MCC church was held in his living room on October 6, 1968. This was a time when the notion of a gay Christian just seemed like an oxymoron, two irreconcilable identities. But Troy Perry had a vision of a church where people didn't have to choose between the two, where they could come and have a sanctuary and a spiritual home that they could be fully seen and fully loved and fully accepted. Fast forward 5 years, 1972 General Conference. Reverend Jim Sandmeyer was scheduled to preach the main sermon in front of representatives of what was now 35 MCC congregations. Athena, can you put up the picture of Jim? There he is. And he was standing up there, and he was saying that many people who were part of those 35 churches at the time were of the mindset that MCC was just like a temporary placeholder denomination, that it was only going to exist as long until, I guess, their childhood denominations or previous affiliations were going to fully accept them back into the fold. And he came up there and said, that's an incorrect notion. That is not what MCC is for. And I'm going to quote now from Troy Perry's book, Do Not Be Afraid Anymore. He said, the dissolution of MCC under any circumstances would be a terrible tragedy. Jim Sandmeyer believed God has called us to be a guide for other churches which need to be shown the way toward a rediscovery of Jesus' love. Jesus consorted with outcasts, championed the weak, and raised the humble. Jesus believed religion should serve to bring all people close to God and to one another in spiritual love. How beautifully said, right? And isn't that true? Isn't that the reason religion and churches should exist? To bring all people close to God and to one another in spiritual love? Reverend Jim Sandmeyer risked at that time challenging his friends and his colleagues because he had a vision that was greater than even the founders had for MCC. During the same sermon, he also strongly encouraged outreach to other people, a wider group, not just the gay and lesbian community, but that we should be working to bring the message of God's radically inclusive love. That's my favorite line from the MCC Statement of Faith, but that's a different sermon. But we should be bringing the message of God's radically inclusive love to others on the margins so they too could find that sanctuary, that spiritual home that Reverend Sandmeyer had found in MCC. Guess what happened at the end of that conference? All 35 congregations voted for MCC to be a permanent denomination. And here we are, 53 years later, still existing. Now, this next chapter is a sadder one. We're about a decade later now, 1981, and it's the AIDS crisis. I was a little kid during the worst part of the AIDS crisis, so I don't really know what it was like. I never really understood the actual impact that it had. And I mean, we got like a tiny taste of it, I think, during the COVID pandemic, but I know that personally, I probably will never fully understand what it was really like to live through that time, especially for people in the LGBTQ community. From a purely numbers standpoint, according to the CDC, estimates are that between 1981 and 1995, so less than 15 years, approximately 510,000 people just in the US contracted AIDS. Over 388,000 of those died. That's like a 76% death rate. So at that time, getting a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS was almost a certain death sentence. And from what I've been told, there were funerals being held almost every single week in one MCC church or another. Troy Perry said all of us knew someone who died, and all of us had friends that were going to die. But it was more than just the death. That's bad enough, but there was the shame and the stigma and the isolation it created that just made everything so much worse. AIDS was often called the gay plague, and the vitriol and just utter lack of empathy from the vast majority of Americans and even the American government, and especially the first decade plus, it's shocking to read some of the things and see some of the things that people were saying during that time. There was actually so much stigma around AIDS that other churches were refusing to hold funerals for people who died. MCC churches were doing funerals for people who couldn't have a funeral. People were afraid to touch AIDS patients, so their victims were deprived of human touch, much less any kind of real companionship while they were sick. Patients were terrified to reveal their diagnosis. Friends and families even felt they had to lie about the reason their loved ones were dying, compounding their grief. And the president at the time, the first Reagan, from 81 to 89, I think, right? Is that the right years? Yeah. He didn't even speak the word AIDS for like 5 years. He never even mentioned it. This disease that was killing tens of thousands of Americans, he would not mention it and did almost nothing to advance prevention or treatment at the critical time when it could have made a huge difference. And amidst all of this is the story of Reverend Steve Peters. He was an MCC pastor, and in 1982, he was diagnosed with AIDS very early on. In 1984, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma and was given just a year to live. But instead of resigning himself to that death sentence, he decided to live with AIDS. So he went public with his diagnosis and dedicated the rest of his life and his ministry to being an advocate for AIDS patients, which for him was an important distinction there too. People were calling them victims and different things, not patients, like they weren't sick people. So here's a list of some of the things that he did. He published a series of articles about his experiences. He did countless interviews with newspapers, TV shows, news outlets, all over the place. He entered a clinical trial, the first one, for an experimental treatment. He appeared at numerous benefits, helping to raise money for AIDS research, since the government was not meaningfully funding it at that time. And then he went on to be appointed to the first AIDS task force in Los Angeles, and eventually went on to serve on the board of directors of AIDS Project LA, AIDS Interfaith Council of Southern California, the AIDS Network, an AIDS National Interfaith Network. And in 1993, he was one of only 12 people invited to a prayer breakfast at the White House with the new president, vice president, and national AIDS policy coordinator. But one of his bravest moments came in 1985. He appeared via satellite on Tammy Faye Baker's TV program, Tammy's House. You guys remember Tammy Faye Baker, the televangelist? So she invited him on, and he was too sick to appear in person. He actually almost died like 2 weeks before this appearance happened. And he came on, and she interviewed him, and he was very honest and just told his story about growing up and becoming a pastor and being a homosexual and how AIDS had affected his life in the last few years. I won't recount the whole interview. It's available to watch online if anyone's interested. But I do want to quote from the end. At this point, Tammy Faye is just bawling, and she said, "How sad that we as Christians, who are to be the salt of the earth, who are supposed to be able to love everybody, are so afraid of an AIDS patient that we will not put our arm around him and tell him that we care." At a time when prominent Christian voices were publicly and repeatedly telling people who were sick and dying that they deserved AIDS or that there's some kind of divine punishment for their behavior, Reverend Peters went on a religious TV show that was broadcast to millions of evangelicals and told everyone watching that he was a Christian pastor who was gay and living with AIDS. He was vulnerable and brave and honest about the hardships he faced. When later asked why he agreed to go on the show, he said, "I thought the opportunity to reach an audience that I would never otherwise reach was too valuable to pass by." Talk about seizing the moment, right? He envisioned a world where people didn't have to live in fear or live in the shadows because they were sick. He imagined this world where there were resources and compassion and eventually successful treatments for this disease. And I believe that he, and I will also give credit to Tammy Faye Baker here too, but I believe he changed hearts that day and made the world a little bit more of a compassionate place and moved people towards his vision of what the world could be. By the way, Reverend Peters did not have a year to live. He lived until 2023. He was 70 years old and outlived his original prognosis by 40 years. And Athena, the next picture, yeah, that's him as his old self. So my last story is another one that many of you have heard before because we talked a lot about it during our Branching Out in Faith campaign. It's a story from this church. The year now, we're in 1999. Pikes Peak MCC is about to celebrate its 20th birthday, but they're still renting space in the basement of the Unitarian Church. The congregation has been fundraising and shopping for its own building for years at this point. And for those of you who are not in the Springs in the 90s or maybe don't know, like I didn't, let me give you some backstory. Go back to 1991, Focus on the Family moved its headquarters here to Colorado Springs, and a bunch of other conservative organizations followed. One of those was called the Colorado for Family Values, or CFV, and it was founded to stop gay activists before they trample on your freedoms. Yeah, that was their stated purpose. A year later, in 1992, CFV drafted Amendment 2, which would amend the Colorado State Constitution to deny protected legal status to people based on their sexual orientation because they wanted to legally discriminate. It not only got on the ballot, but it passed, and then Colorado was dubbed the hate state by a lot of outside places. And people here in Colorado, I'm talking about people in this room, people who are watching online, they were shoved back into the closet and were living in real fear of losing their jobs. Several people, especially ones that were working in education, continued to march in pride parades, but they marched with paper bags over their heads so they couldn't be identified. 2 years later, now 1994, an author and activist, Mel White, staged a week-long hunger strike in front of Focus on the Family. PPMCC's pastor at the time, Nori Rost, participated in that hunger strike, and the church co-sponsored multiple other events going on throughout the week, including a prayer vigil at Acacia Park to protest Amendment 2 and all this anti-LGBTQ rhetoric that was happening. Another 2 years after that, 1996, a legal challenge made its way up to the US Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled Amendment 2 was violating the 14th Amendment and therefore was unconstitutional, and it was lifted. So now, go back to 1999. Church is searching for a building. There's been denials and, to be honest, discrimination that was happening in this process. And finally, a former bingo hall, where coincidentally, PPMCC had some of those fundraising events for this future building that they visioned they were going to have at the bingo hall that was now available for sale. And the bank wanted a lot for the down payment and collateral to secure the loan. And 4 members stepped up and they co-signed the loan. They put their own houses up for collateral for the mortgage. That in itself is just such an incredible act of faith and belief in this church. But remember, this was just 3 years after Amendment 2 was lifted. And Janelle is one of those people. I asked her if it was okay to say this. She told me that attaching her name to the gay church at that time still felt like she was taking a really big risk. She and the others were taking a public stand and potentially exposing themselves. It wasn't until 2005, actually, that Colorado passed an equal employment law that included sexual orientation as a protected class. So they weren't protected. But it all worked out in the end, and we finally paid off the mortgage, and we own this building outright. I could go on, but I actually cut another full sermon out of this morning, so I'll be back with more. But if you do want to know more, the book I was quoting from is Don't Be Afraid by Troy Perry. It's in the office to borrow, as well as his other book, The Lord is My Shepherd and He Knows I'm Gay. And there is also a documentary by that same name that's available to watch online. I recommend all of them if you're interested. I do want to also say that I was learning all this, I was inspired by just the magnitude of influence that MCC churches and our leaders have had on the LGBTQ rights movement. MCC was involved with all the steps forward. I didn't even get into the first Pride Parade or the 3 marches on Washington or the many, many demonstrations and initiatives to fight legalized discrimination, the mass public weddings and the court battles for same-sex marriage. It was MCC folks that were on the front lines of all of them. And the fights are not over. You all know that. We're still here. We're still fighting, especially our trans siblings who are really under fire right now. But I want you to imagine in all these stories, just imagine the courage that it took, especially for those early pioneers, to step up, to risk exposure, and claim their faith and sexuality as intertwined aspects of their being. They challenged friends and strangers, the courage it took to stand up and say, I have AIDS. They knew that they would face scorn and rejection from some people, sometimes even people in their own families, and the possibility of losing their jobs, the real fear of being put in jail or being beat by law enforcement instead of protected by them. Yet they persisted. Sometimes there were setbacks, sometimes there were failures. Some churches were literally burned to the ground, and many people died. But even through all this, they were a people connected in love and purpose, and they continued rising because their spirit was rooted in the Spirit, the same Spirit that lives in us and connects all of us. We are resiliently rooted, and we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And now we can rise even higher. And we can rise in pride. And I'm not talking about pride like arrogance or trying to elevate yourself above someone else. I'm talking about pride as owning our worth. Like Richard just said earlier, claiming our value and dignity as people simply because we're human, not because of something we've done or we haven't done, but just because we are alive. Talking about pride as the celebration of our unique identities and recognizing the beauty and strength that reside within all of us and the love that binds us together. So how do we do that? How do we claim our pride and rise up? I think it starts with a vision. In all these stories, these people were visionaries. So what's your vision? What's your vision? I would like to share, Leonard read the MCC Statement of Faith. I'd like to share the vision statement of PPMCC, which was inspired by the scripture reading today. And it states, Pikes Peak MCC exists to do justice, embrace God's love for all people, and walk humbly with our God. How do we rise in pride and live out that vision? What do each of those components mean to you? When future lead participants come in and they're learning about PPMCC history, what stories do you want them to tell? Let's, for a second, just put aside what seems feasible or realistic for the moment and just dream. Imagine we have all the resources that we need and more. We don't have to worry about anything. What would you want our church to be doing? What kind of a place is it that you're envisioning in this scenario? If you have something that you like to share about that, even just a word, there's pens, pencils, there's paper back on the little desk back there, or if you're online, you can write it in the chat. If you want to share it in an email later, you can email me or any of the board members. If you need time to think about it, that is obviously totally fine. You don't have to have all the answers right now. I know I don't have all the answers. And maybe you already thought about this when Christine was up here, or you've been thinking about it with the pastoral search questions. But I just ask you to reflect on those questions. Maybe journal about it, meditate about it, and if you do come up with something, we would love to hear what you see for the future of Pikes Peak MCC. So I'll leave you with this. The Gospels emphasize love as the greatest commandment, love for God and love for each other. And love in this sense is an action word. It's not a passive emotion. We're not called to be recipients of fate, just being tugged along by the currents of society. Just as the early members of MCC churches took their destiny into their own hands and created a spiritual home where none existed, and helped shape the world into a more accepting and compassionate and equitable place, so too are we empowered by those roots to shape our own future and the future of the world around us. We are a people rooted in the resilience of our predecessors, and as long as we choose to act with courage and love, remembering always love, we're guaranteed to rise in pride. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Well done, Alicia. Alicia, good job.
I'm sorry.
Are you
Say
choked
something?
up? No, go ahead.
I'm
You
going to
can
say
do
something
it.
too, real quick here. Got to think when something like this comes around. This next song, as you guys can see, if you've been here before, you know what this song is, and you know some of the verses inside this song, and we can't change the lyrics because it doesn't. But when we get to the verse where we're praying with heroines and heroes, right? Don't just think of the names that we're going to sing in the song. Let's reflect on Troy Perry. Let's reflect on Dan Meyer, Pete Peters, all the others in our history.
Just making sure. There is a prayer like a wide river. It never ends, does not begin. Around the world, it's always flowing, and I am stepping in. We are stepping in. We are praying for those in distant places, different languages and faces, every hour of the day. And we are praying with enemies and strangers, in gratitude and danger, calling God's 10,000 names. There is a prayer like a wide river. It never ends, does not begin. Around the world, it's always flowing, and I am stepping in. We are stepping in. We are praying with those who've gone before us, that great ancestral chorus. We are joining as we sing, and we are praying with heroines and heroes, Moses, Mary, and Romero, yes, and Martin Luther King. There is a prayer like a wide river, and it never ends, does not begin.
it's always flowing, and I am stepping in. Oh, we are stepping in.
Hello, my name is Trudy, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And welcome you to this time of communion. And here at our MCC and MCCs around the world, we have an open communion for, or open table for communion. We believe that Jesus the Christ sets the guest list, and everyone is invited. You don't have to be a member of this church or any church or believe in any certain way to participate in the meal today. For those who are joining us online, you can start to gather your items. It could just be a piece of tostada, a mocktail, a matcha, whatever you have available to you to join with us in our meal. And for those of you who are here in person, we have 3 options. First of all, the only gluten-free option is coming up here when I call you forward to form 2 lines and accept the elements up here. But also, if you'd like to remain in your seat, we have individual cups that you can peel back and celebrate with me. If you still need one of those, raise your hand, and our usher, Michael, will come around and serve you. And you may also participate by just remaining in your seats, just being in spirit with the rest of us, meditating, praying. That's a form of participation too. I've always kind of loved imagining the Last Supper, Despite the seriousness of the night that was to come, there was still probably some joking and storytelling among Jesus the Christ and his very loyal friends that he was so dedicated to. And my personal opinion, I think Mary Magdalene and some women were there too. They just didn't get written about. I'm comforted that Jesus the Christ offers such consistent friendship to his followers that night and to all of us forever. For many of us, we may be closer to our friends than even the family that we were born into. The bonds in biological families can become strained for so many reasons today. All that makes it even more important to value our friends, our chosen family. And Jesus the Christ is the friend who is most reliable and loves us no matter what. Like Richard said, just because we are, he loves us. Proof of that came later that night after the Last Supper when Judas came up to kiss Jesus the Christ so the soldiers could identify him and take him away. Judas addressed him as Rabbi, kind of indicating that he didn't really believe he was the Messiah. And despite all that was about to happen, Jesus replied, "My friend," to Judas. Sadly, Judas was never able to accept that unfailing love and forgiveness of his friend. May our eyes be open here at this table to the amazing gift of friendship that Jesus has for us and for all people. So on the night which he gave himself up for us, he took bread and he gave it to his disciples and said, "Take, eat. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in memory of me." If you are using an individual cup, you may consume the bread. And you may take the bread online. When the supper was over, he took the cup and he gave thanks to God. And he gave it to his disciples and said, "Drink from this, all of you. This is the cup of the new covenant, a new way of loving yourselves, each other, and God. Do this as often as you like, and when you drink of it, do it in remembrance of me." If you are using an individual cup or worshiping online, you may receive the cup now. Friends, Christ invites all of us to this table, for this is the love of God for the people of God, and you may now come forward and form two lines in front of the altar. Awesome God, we thank you for the gift of friendship and for placing loving people in our lives. Guide me to be the kind of friend we want to have, someone supportive, kind, honest, and present through the good times and the rough times. Help us to be patient and forgiving and to serve others with love and generosity. When friendships are challenged, grant us the grace to resolve conflicts and truly realize the value of the bonds we have to others. Also, help us to value this community, this place, which allows us to come together and make friends. May we always remember that you, God, are our most loyal and genuine friend, from whom all good things come. In the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Continue branching out in faith, and we appreciate your support in helping this church branch out in new areas of mission and ministry. Here are ways that you can make a financial gift. If you're in person, you can give online or by cash or check, by placing an offering in the giving envelope from a seat back pocket near you. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to our website, ppmcc.org, and click on the Gift Now button at the top menu. We're busy and we're active, and your gifts help us. Our first BIPOC Pride in Colorado Springs is hosted by the Trust Center. It will be September 20th from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. here at PPMCC. There will be several performances, drag, dancing, a kids area, food trucks, and more. We have are trying to now include some events that are happening in our community that you might be interested in attending. We have an event that happens downtown in the Patty Jewett neighborhood. It's called Porch Fest, and it is an event where you bring your camp chair and some food and you walk the blocks, and there are bands set up on different porches. You get that information. You can get it online at Porch Fest. And you walk around the neighborhood and visit and be with people and listen to music. It's a wonderful, a joyful day. It starts at 1415 North Royer Street, and it starts at 1 o'clock. That will be this next Sunday, September 14th. Some of my favorite local bands will be there. If you're not a member and you've recently connected with this church, please let us know if you'd like to deepen that connection and become a member. Sign up for a new member class that is scheduled for October 4th, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can sign up online, or you can talk with Alicia Hayes. You can email her at admin, ADMIN, at ppmcc.org. New members will be welcomed into membership on October 5th. We are putting out a call for new board members, so people that are interested and have thought about maybe giving back in that way. We are always looking for people who can lead this church with expertise and a combination of skills that help to build this place. Those board members can access our board member application that will be out this week. We finalized that. And we also vote on board members at the congregational meeting. So take note, the congregational meeting will be held on October 26th, the last Sunday of the month. So if you would like to be a member, join that board member class. You can join board members to board meetings online or in person. That is something that we ask so that you're kind of aware of how things operate. We actually have 5 seats up for election this year, and we vary the terms potentially from 1 to 3 years. If you're interested, please talk to one of the board members that is here today, or you can get online and see that, and be looking for that board member application, as well as a second application for the Pastoral Search Team Committee. That has been finalized, and that will be coming out this week. So if you're interested and you've been thinking about, I really want to be a part of where we're going to go with this church over this next time in our life here, please consider that. We are trying to be as open about the time commitment. It is a time commitment. We will provide a link for you to look at resources that are provided by our denomination and understand what is really entailed in that pastoral search process. It does take time, and it also takes commitment and skill. And I want for people to pray about it. There's so many of us that this place is such an important place for us. I'm going to go ahead and leave a video message that we got this week from our congregation, our denomination. They sent a video message to us and asked us if we would share it during our worship time today.
Hello, Parks PPMCC. Happy day to you. My name is Reverend Kathy Alexander, and I'm the denomination's Vocational Leadership Coordinator.
And I'm Reverend Dexter Brecht. I serve on MCC staff as Church Support and Development Coordinator. We're happy to bring you greetings today from the entire community development team led by Elder Hector Gutierrez. And assure you of our support for you as a congregation during this time of transition.
We wanted to let you know that we have been working with your board of directors ever since Pastor Alicia moved on, and we want you to know that they are doing an excellent job in coming together and bringing your congregation together and in providing their leadership. So we want to applaud them in the work that they are doing, and we want to let you know that we are continuing to work with the board on your behalf as they continue to work on your behalf.
And we actually think that it has been a wise decision on their part to actually take some time since Pastor Alicia left before actually beginning a formal process of searching for a next pastor in order to give you some time to process that transition and to begin to come to an awareness of your identity as a congregation beyond Pastor Alicia's leadership.
We know that there have been survey questions that have been going on, and we encourage you to continue to think about those questions and to let the board know the answers to those questions so that they get a better idea of your thoughts around pastoral leadership, around the church direction, and around what you would like to see as a church. So please do remain engaged in that way and in all the ministries that your church have to offer. For that is your ministry to God, and that is your service to God. We understand that a formal pastoral search team has begun. The call for that has begun, and we want you to know that we will also support that pastoral search team in moving forward.
And one of the prime ways that you can support that team, in addition to responding to questions or contacting them to express your opinions, of course, is to pray about this process that you are entering into, and know that there are a variety of resources available through MCC to help guide this selection, discernment process step by step, and that Kathy and I are available as well with additional ideas resources, uh, perhaps questions and or advice to that team and to your board of directors during this.
Absolutely. Please know that we are in prayer for you. Please know that we have full faith that God and Spirit will guide and direct you. We encourage you to pray specifically and pray for each other, pray for the direction of the church. Thank you so much for your attention, and God bless.
Okay, as you guys go out this week and in future weeks, may the boundless, radically inclusive love of God who roots us in steadfast resilience and the comforting presence of the Spirit who empowers us to rise in pride be present with you always. Go rooted in your truth, sharing your unique light, and may your lives be a testament to the love and justice that prevail. Amen. Closing song, 10,000 Reasons.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship your holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me. Let me be singing when the evening comes. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship your holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I worship your holy name. draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship your holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship your holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. Yes, I worship your holy name. Yes, I worship your holy name.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy. We'll see you guys here next week.